Welcome to the UK OCR Community Podcast, presented by Obstacle Racing Media. Each episode, we'll be talking to race directors, elite runners, weekend warriors, and frankly, anyone else from the UK OCR scene that will talk to us. Here is your host, Alan, aka Muddy Duck.
Anywhere in Chicken Town. The bloody scene is bloody sad. The bloody news is bloody
Grant Thompson. Oh, fourth place in World's Toughest Mudder. Welcome to the UK OCR podcast. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. I'm very good.
Gosh, it's a long time since we last saw. It must be nearly 12 months ago since we last chatted.
Well, do you know, I think we quickly passed each other at ETM, but I was sort of tunnel vision, and I was just sort of like, so I didn't really recognise you. But I actually spoke to you probably a year ago.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Great result on WTM. And I want to talk about that in a bit. But first of all, I want to talk about your build-up, because you had a big UK OCR series happen this year. You got second place. You know, you didn't do many events in it and got second with like almost maximum points. I'm going to say Dassos just picked me to it. You build up to World's Toughest Mudder. If looking from outside, I know how well you did at ETM, and I know how was it. You got second place at ETM, just behind Dassos, weren't it?
Yeah.
But it was on time because you got exactly the same laps, didn't you? I mean, you both got 55 miles.
But he was just. I think he was a good hour ahead of me or something. So he was close to lapping me, but not quite. I think I was the only guy he didn't manage to actually lap. So he was close though.
And a great battle with Russell Walsh, who got third place. He could have gone out for another lap at ETM, but he didn't. Yeah,
I think the cold was getting to him. I know he doesn't. I don't think he's too keen on the cold, so I think he was struggling a wee bit on that front, which gave me a wee bit of an advantage to keep going.
And I mean, so you were ready for it, I mean, I looked at the stats, and I was like thinking, could Grant get close? Could he get up there? I'm thinking if the wind blows in his favour, he could get up there.
Yeah.
But the wind didn't blow in your favour. You just smashed it out of the water,
mate. Just typical fashion this past 2 years. I've just sort of turned up and just went, right, let's see what we can do. Because you're saying the build up, I've not really been training properly at all, which is probably not done me any favours, but I've still got results. But yeah, I've just sort of rocked up and went, let's see how this goes. And I think from doing lots of previous ultras, it's just been in the bag to sort of, have it in the legs and get a decent distance.
What was your build up to it like? Talk me 6 months before WTM. Let's go back 6 months. What was it like at that point?
Again, very just sort of winging it. I've been telling a lot of people this, and even in my status about the race and all that, I've just been making it up as I go along. And I've sort of been like that the past 2 years. Ever since I got sort of an injury, I've just sort of went a wee bit all over the place. So obviously ETM was on the eye. I was definitely eyeing that up. I felt decent in that. Yeah, the aches and pains were there, but I managed to sort of get through it and just plod along. And then I was sort of debating about, Nuclear Oblivion Max and a couple other races. And I was like, that'll be good, hours in the legs. But then there was a local race that's literally 10 minutes from me. And it was a 24-hour, just a trail run, 7K loop, just going round and round on the shores of Loch Ness. So I was like, well, that would be good. Yes, like same deal, yeah. So I was like, that would be good prep, for running World's Toughest Mudder, seeing if I can get the 100 miles in the legs. But obviously there's no obstacles, just as you say, the backyard ultra thing, just going round and round and round. So that was like, it was a couple of weeks before Oblivion Max. So I was like, right, I'll go for that, test the legs, see if it can get the 100 miles in the legs. So I got 100 miles, won the race. It was very last minute, literally about 2 days before it started. I was like, right, I'll just sign up. So I wasn't expecting anything. So got 114.5 miles. So I was like, right, I've got it in the legs, obviously, to get that 100 miles. But I felt awful. I felt awful from the start. The aches and pains were just all amped up. I didn't feel good at all. And the parents even popped by, because obviously it's local. They popped on, how you feeling? I was just like, I feel fucking awful. I don't feel good. So that was pretty torturous, you know. But it was like, right, just keep going, good prep for WTM. And then I think the next race we would have been Spartan Ultra.
Yeah.
And again, didn't feel good, just felt off. The aches and pains were all there. So I got 12th overall, which wasn't my favourite result. I got a second place age group, but so wasn't what I wanted, but it was probably better afterwards. I thought, oh, that was awful. I'm way down like 20th or something, well off it. So the second place age group and just missing the top 10 was decent, but it wasn't what I sort of went there for. And then after that was obviously WTM. So going into it, I was very much like, I think I've made a mess of this before I even started because my body just wasn't sort of reacting well, sort of in the last couple of races. And as I say, my training, I think the longest run I've done is like 2 hours. I've done that a handful of times this year, other than the races. So I've not exactly been prepping my body properly. So yeah, going over, I wasn't sure what to expect. So
No.
I knew I was capable of getting 100 miles, and that was the goal. As I said to you last year, that was the goal. But yeah, I didn't know what to expect.
What was it like standing on that start line with athletes like, I mean, Ryan Atkinson, Michael Short, you know, great athletes that are easily capable of
Yeah.
100 miles, you know, and that. What was it like stood there with them? Was you a bit starstruck, or was you like, did you feel
No,
like you were in their company?
it's weird because I don't think anyone really knows who Michael knows me now because I've spoken to him obviously from
Yeah.
ETM and last year, but a lot of these guys, I don't think they have a clue who I am, you know. So I'm just sort of sitting there, head down. And the more thing I was worried about was just fucking the heat. It was far too hot. It was invariably hot.
Really?
So on that start line, the only thing I can think of was just we need to get running, we need to get going. So I wasn't really, I was getting more annoyed because obviously you got the big American speech, you know, and it goes on for about 30, 45 minutes. And I'm sitting there getting baked in the sand. There's fire ants all over the ground, and you're getting eaten with all these bags. And so seeing all these people on the start line, I was just sort of like, yeah, they'll probably smash me. So, but I was there for one goal, and it was 100 miles. So I was like, they're going to be off. You know, they'll be lapping me very quickly in the race. So, yeah, don't get starstruck. I just get a bit sort of agitated, a bit irritated. I just want to go.
Yeah.
I hate waiting, so I'm very impatient, as most people who know me know very well. I hate the waiting about, so I want to get going. So it didn't really matter who was on the start line. It was just, I'm here for my goal. That was it.
And your first lap was fairly quick, 41:47.
Yeah,
Was that intentional, or I mean, you said the heat there. I'm thinking the heat
I
for
think it
me
was.
would have slowed me down a bit, but
Yeah, well, honestly, that first lap, I've never felt so awful during a race. It was so hot. Also, I think it was more just to sort of get out in front, you know, just because it was quite sort of tight wee trail. So just make sure I don't get caught behind a big
right.
pack of people. But definitely probably was faster than I was intending. But because this year I tried to make a conscious effort to go, right, it's really hot, slow down a bit. But second lap, I was definitely already feeling it. I was like cagging the water there because there's things I did wrong last year, and this year I was like, you know, making sure I had the water. And third lap, I had the camel back on with the water bladder because it was just far too hot. So yeah, that first lap, I didn't think I'd be that quick on it. I think, as I said, I was just trying to get out sort of in front of the pack. But after that, I was genuinely trying to make a conscious effort of like slowing my pace down and just keeping it steady. Because yeah, that heat was it was awful. It was horrendous. I hated it.
If my memory serves me right, I've got number 16 in my head. That I think you were in 16th place. It was either after the first lap or the second lap. I noticed you were in 16th place, and I thought, oh, Grant's gone out well. That's a good result so far. Top 20. I'm thinking that's where he wants to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I made a conscious effort of like, I'm not going to go chasing, you know, Michael and Atkins or that. I was just like,
Yeah.
it's not going to do me any favors. Last year it was hot, but it was nice. It wasn't like unbearably hot, so I was actually comfortable, you know, running that hot like that first sort of few laps in Texas. You know, I felt good.
Yeah.
Whereas this, I was like, just hold it back. Don't get too carried away. Don't go out hell for leather because in this sand, it's going to backfire big time. because it was like being in a sauna. It was unbearable. You know what was it like that dry heat they say? It's like someone just has like a heater just blowing in your face constantly. So even just breathing was just it was just torturous at times. So yeah, that was I mean, it was a quick first lap, but I was, in all intentions, my plan was to just go easy right up until it got sort of cooler.
And you went 12 laps. You went 60 miles without really spending any time in the pits.
Yeah.
Was that the intention?
Yeah. So I was feeling, as I say, I was actually feeling good. The aches and pains were sort of staying away. And I actually had pit crew, Gillian McKenzie and Stephen Brody, shout out to them because they were very good at just, because last year I didn't have my pit crew. The boys that I was with were in a different area, so I was just doing it myself. So this time they were like literally ready and waiting, going, right, there you go, fill up the water bladder. So I was able to get sort of pretty quick pit times each time. And he was very good in sort of checking the live tracking, going, right, well, this guy's this far behind or this guy's in front of you. And so yeah, I was able to just keep going. And then when it got to, I was at 60 miles, I think 13 hours in, so just about an hour over halfway, I think.
Yep.
I was like, right, I'm going to make the conscious effort to like have a break, to like stop. But obviously, because once again, the ego kicked in, because I seen that I was like, I now jumped up to 5th place. I was feeling good. I was like, right, do I just keep going or do I stop? Because last year I kept going till basically as long as I could.
Yeah.
And I think it kind of backfired on me because my legs felt awful where I basically had to stop.
Right.
The Loch Ness 24 race, I did the same I did here. I stopped halfway through and gave myself like an hour rest. But my legs, as I say, that Loch Ness race a couple of months ago, but I felt awful. Whereas this, I felt pretty good. But I was just like, right, tactically, I'll just lie down 30, 45 minutes and just give my legs a wee break. Just sort of, the cramp was sort of, in my calf was quite bad. And so I just lay down, didn't go to sleep with that. I just lay down. I was like, right, just sort of, just lift my legs up, just sort of stretch, do a few things like that. And then went back out and I felt pretty good. So yeah, just went for it again. Even though despite knowing, I was like, right, because I did the thing where I was like, I'll look at my phone and I'd seen I dropped a few places. I was like, right, got to try and catch them again. But it's hard to see who's like who, in the dark because you're just, and I'm just sort of head down, and just sort of try and keep moving. So yeah,
I mean, you
it
got
was
your
weird.
pace back up quite quickly though, because I mean,
Yeah,
your two laps before you went 1:15, 1:19, and then when you came back out, you ran a 1:05. So your lap 13 was actually 1:05. You went out and blasted that, and then you went 1:16, 1:11. So you actually started hitting them perfect times again.
yeah. So I think it definitely did help because, as I said, I did when I had the rest, came back out. I was sort of saying to Gillian and Steve, I was like, how was that? Was that? I was like, I felt slow. And they're like, no, that was actually one of your better laps. And so I managed to keep that going. But then the sun came back up about 6, 7. And yeah, that I felt even worse, obviously, than I did at the start of the race. So because it was nice during the night because it was warm. It was like you could have run in the t-shirt all night. I think the only time the reason I had the base layer on was just to sort of protect my arms, and even that was too hot. So if I could have, I would have been in probably just the shorts and vest. But so that was it.
I have heard talk of things on there saying that it was potentially the easier of many worlds to push. No WTM's easy, so let's get that out of the question easier.
Yeah.
People are saying this is a little bit easier than it has been on the last few. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I can see that, and I would probably agree. So I think one of the main things where it was easier this year was the penalties, because last year the penalties were pretty hard going because they were big, long loops, and this year they were sort of more the stereotypical fan taking 10, 20 seconds or a couple of minutes for that. Whereas last year, as so many people ended up being miles and miles of penalty loops. So I think that was one of the main factors in it being easier because the penalties were very straightforward and it didn't take too much time. And then I would say there was definitely 2 or 3 other obstacles last year that were trickier and added that element of grip. which we're probably missing this year. So I would say on that front, it was probably easier. Mainly, I would say it was down to the penalties just being so much easier. But for me, course-wise, the heat made it tougher to run last year. And last year, I preferred the sort of hilly elevation. There's this like sand section this year, and it was only like half a mile long, and it was just like zombies. We were all just like miserable, just like you couldn't run in it. You're just sinking into it. And so, in terms of the course, it's never much difference in the course. But I think I preferred last year, even though it had a couple of big climbs, and then this year that sand section, I say, is the heat. But yeah, I would say it was easier. But you say no World's Tough Mudder is easy, but I would say on that front, mainly down to the penalties and maybe 2 or 3 other obstacles that could have been there that weweren't there that made it.
I get that. What was your nemesis obstacle? Was there a nemesis obstacle for you?
No, because something that occurred to me. So after we did the interview last year,
yeah,
because then you're like, what did you use your band on? And I kept using it. I've forgotten what the name of it was, but it was Kiss of Mad. Just the barbed wire mad crawl.
Yeah.
So that's what I used it on last year. And it wasn't until I listened back to the interview, I was just like, oh, you fucking idiot. Because I kept, like, obviously at the time, because I wasn't feeling any obstacles, I was like, yeah, I'll just use it in this. It wasn't until, like, after the race, I was like, why didn't I keep all those for the penalty obstacles?
Yeah.
And save me having to do all that penalty use. But at the time, I just wasn't thinking. I was just getting annoyed with that Kiss of Mad obstacle. So I was like, I'll just use it there. So this year I went in and I was like, right, save up my bands, use them for actual penalty obstacles if it gets to that. So I just stacked them up. I think I had about 8 or 9 of me. Basically, I saved them up until I had the rest.
Right.
And then when I had the rest, I was like, right, go back out and to sort of try and make up maybe a few minutes. Or maybe use them on a couple of the more longer obstacles. So I used them on a bunch of different ones. I think the only thing I failed was the well swung. Where you grab on the lever and you swing the bell. So I think I failed that 3 or 4 times. That was the only thing. And it was because it was annoying because there was only 2 of them open. 2 of them were broken. And one was slightly higher than the other. But the one had a bell that was slightly further sort of to the side than the other one. So you were sort of trying to eye up which one would be better. Sometimes I was absolutely nailing it, no problem. And other times I was like just missing it, like literally flicking the bell. It's not ringing. So
was there a penalty for that?
It was just a space hopper. So all you did was just up and down. So again, very basic, very easy. Doesn't take long at all. Yes, it was not good in the cramp, bouncing on a space hopper. But again, it's not like it wasn't like anything major. And so the thing with the well swung as well, you're allowed to obviously go again, but because you fall into the water, it's like, well, there's no point trying it again. And hands are soaking wet, so everyone would just go, missed it. So that was the only thing I failed throughout the whole night. So 3 or 4 times, and then
amazing result, Grant. I would say amazing result. Let's quickly talk about next year, 2025. WTM is coming to the UK down at Belvoir or Belvoir, however you want to pronounce it, Castle in the Midlands. However, same date as the European Championships. What's the plans? Are we going to go Europeans? Are we going to go
WTM?
Good man.
WTM. You know me by now. I like my ultras. So as much as I'm glad to do all that, like the Europeans and all that, I like my ultras. So WTM, that is the race. That'll be probably the A race again next year.
Loving it. Are we going to see you at a little bit more of the UK Endurance League at some of them events? Because like I say, second place this year, you didn't do that many. I think there's a lot of room for you to potentially pick points up at some of the races.
Yeah, I get a lot of it's come down to money. I'm skint. I've got no money. So, and again, it's a long way for me to go. So I had all intentions of doing each of them, but I just sort of, and the niggling injury as well was sort of played on my mind. So if I can finally get my arse in a gear and go, right, get on top of the wee injuries and get back to our programme, because as I say, I've just been winging it, just making it up as I go along, which is not done me any favours. So yeah, I'd like to obviously, I think it was 5 races this year and 5 races last year, something like that. Yeah. So yeah, I'm missing doing more. So hopefully get back and getting about it and do a lot more races.
Fantastic. And next year at WTM, are we going to go for 105, 110, 110? You've got to be something a bit more. It's home ground.
Do you know something? This year, I could have hit 105. Like, I was on time. I had plenty of time. And of course, in hindsight, I'm like, if I did take the rest. I would have had that 45, 50 minutes. But even that last few laps, like, because the sun came back out, it just drained me, like, just ruined me. So the last lap I had to walk. And when I was going out for that last lap, I was like, I've got time to get 105. But yeah, the heat just stopped it from happening. So next year, obviously, podium's the goal. And yeah, beat that 100. But I reckon we'll be in for a tougher race. There was a few of the British team, or Tough Mudder team, they're doing an interview and they're talking about how they're obviously going to have Spartan obstacles there as well, because there's like Tough Mudder, or is it Europe's, no, WTM, and then they're going to have a Spartan race the following weekend or something. So they've got 3 weekends in a row. So I reckon they'll listen to the feedback of, they just need to find that happy medium of a couple more tougher obstacles and penalties sort of not being so silly or not being so stupidly long. So, yeah, I reckon
I'm a big fan of stupid penalties. I like the stupid penalties. I don't want to see people running around Little Mudder and spending 30 minutes doing something.
And a lot of times they don't fit. Sometimes they don't fit the obstacle as well. So I would get it for completing something like Funky Monkey. That's challenging and that's tough. So you'd expect maybe a slightly harsher penalty because you got to achieve it. Whereas Well Swung, just throw yourself, hit the bell. And last year, one of the penalties, it was where you had the ball on the rope thing where you just had to anchor it over a wall. And it was some stupidly long penalty. And you're just you're literally just throwing a bit of rope basically. If you hook it on the wall, that's how you completed it. So if you failed that, you had to do this huge long penalty. So it was sometimes the penalties in these races, they don't reflect the obstacle, in my opinion. So and it's no fun just going round big, huge, long penalties, and you want sort of the average racer as well. You want them to enjoy it rather than just having to constantly do more walking. So yeah, if they find a happy sort of medium, simpler obstacles that are just basic, keep them fun and silly, but then maybe slightly just a carry or that devil's beard, for maybe a tougher obstacle, in my opinion. So I think it'll be tougher next year.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Grant, thank you for coming on and joining us, giving us your thoughts. I'm going to purposely turn around to our listeners, though. I haven't asked you a lot of questions about WTM because we're going to have another episode with some fun runners on that I'm going to get that from them. So I want to speak about you and your race because your race is that I want to get from it. So well done, Grant. I mean,
thank you very much.
And hopefully, just one question before I let you go. Does coming fourth give you a better pit position now for next year's WTM? It's got to give you that, hasn't it?
So if you get I already had elite contender status after getting 9th male last year, and then obviously ETM it already gave me elite status. So yeah, I get one of the early pit selections. So
nice one.
It's that it does help. It's not a necessity, but obviously it definitely does help just being right there rather than having to go traipsing off into the distance and finding your crew. So yeah, I'll have an early pit selection already established.
Awesome. And I'm pretty certain there's going to be busloads of people coming down from Scotland for it as well.
Hopefully. But I was obviously hearing a lot of chit chat over there, and they're saying how the numbers for next year WTM for sales wise have already doubled or surpassed Florida's there. So the numbers are already looking good. So hopefully get all the British legends and all the locals, and everyone's going to actually come down and check it out because it'd be good to see a lot of the friendly and familiar faces on this one.
Without a doubt, I just wish it didn't clash with the Euros. I do know a few people are going to go to the Euros rather than WTM, but that's their choice. And there, you can only take on who turns up, can't you? End of the day, so.
It's frustrating. We know clashes are going to happen, but because if it wasn't clashing, I would have been eyeing it up myself. But it is what it is. But obviously, WTM for me.
Cool. Thank you, Grant. Much appreciated.
No problem at all. Thanks again, Alan.
Get your teeth into some science with a caffeine kick that works 3 times faster than gels, drinks, or pills. Caffeine bullets have been shown to boost your endurance by up to 6% and help reduce pain and fatigue so you can run faster for longer. Whether you're training for Hyrox, OCR, or 5K or an Ultra, Caffeine Bullets have your back. They'll help you train harder and push for that personal best. And here's the cool science part, buccal absorption. The caffeine is absorbed through your cheeks and gums as you chew, hitting your bloodstream in just 5 minutes. Perfect for getting that energy burst right when you need it. Ready to crush your next race? Use code UKOCR at checkout for 20% off and go smash your PB. Now, let's get back to the show.
Charlie, my friend, this is a bit different for us because we normally do a preview WTM, but now we're doing a post WTM.
Yeah, it's first for me, this one.
How are you? Are you recovered? Have you got rid of the jet lag? And
no, I'm not recovered yet. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm still feeling it pretty much. I tried to go to the gym last week, and I didn't really do much in there, so I've just taken a bit of time out. And I'm not sure whether I'm fatigued or if I've got this cold that's going around, or maybe it's a combination of everything. But I mean, my legs are still pretty sore. You know, my thighs really sore actually after the race. I found once I started running, I think about 12 hours in, my thighs were just really painful, and I just sort of just kept pushing through, and like I say, I'm still feeling the pain now. So,
wow. I mean, 75 miles. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
On getting the 75 bib. That's absolutely phenomenal. How did it go for you? Because you went out at what I would say a steady pace, 48:22 first lap, 5 miles. I know you can probably run faster than that. Was it a conscious effort to run at that pace?
Well, I mean, to be honest, my training was going well. And then about 3 weeks before Worlds, I got struck down with this cold that was going around. And I didn't really leave my bed for a couple of days, didn't do anything for 2 weeks. And then on the third week, was trying to get in the gym just to do what I can, more stretching than anything else. So really, when I started the race at Worlds, I was really conscious of, keeping my heart rate down. So every time I sort of got a bit too high, I just pulled it back a little bit. And then, like you say, because I was getting these laps in under an hour, I think it was 5 laps were about, just shy of an hour or so. So I was able to sort of keep that momentum. And then, I think I was just really, because I felt I wasn't as fit as I wanted to be, I was just very cautious with everything. I think I went over Lumberjack on about, I think it was like my 5th lap or so, and I kicked it because I just wasn't really paying attention and banged my foot. And then I was like, could something, a simple injury like that put me out of the race? So I was just really careful with the whole race, but at the same time kept moving forward. I tell you, the best thing actually about this Worlds was the pits. They allowed us all to have quick pits throughout the whole race, and that was a real benefit for me, because I could just run straight through, grab something, and then straight out. I mean, my pits were like 2 minutes, 3 minutes max, and I think part of that was just because of where the start finish line is, just to running that distance. So it was good. It was really good, I thought. Nice.
When I look at your pit stops, they were some of the shortest. I was talking to Grant, and Grant was in there for and he had an elite contender stage. What was yours? Did you have elite contender?
Oh, mine was open because I was I held off getting my Infinity because I was going to do the last one, so I did my toughest, went to get Infinity, and then that's when I was ill, so I couldn't do that last Infinity. So that was the thing. Me being ill for those last 3 weeks, I missed out on an Infinity, and I was going to do a marathon training run. So they just sort of went out the window. But it's fine. So I just had an open.
So your pit times are absolutely phenomenal, because Grant's were like 5 minutes. On average, you did about 5 minutes. And yours, I think, on average, when I look at yours are about 2.
Yeah.
So I mean, your shortest one, 1:24. No, 1:11. You had a 1:11.
That's what I mean. I was able to, just because having the quick pit there, I was able to run past them, tell them what I wanted on the next lap, and it was great. I mean, I think probably the longer pit was when I asked them for porridge around about midnight. So they had some porridge ready for me, and I just stood there, 3 or 4 mouthfuls of that, and off I went again. So I think it was just like I say, there was a lot of Mark James. I ran with him maybe 3 years ago, and he got 75. And I remember him saying then, you've just got to keep moving forward. Even if you're not if you're walking, power walk. Don't sort of walk. So, and as soon as you can run again, run. And that's what I just kept doing. So, and 20 hours in, I was still able to run at a slow pace, but it was still moving forward. And that was just the thing. But the power walking, I mean, that was the other thing is, 20 hours in and people are jogging quite slow. And I was just power walking almost faster than they were. So, and all those little things, it just gives you confidence, I think. If you're going into these races really positive and, confident, it helps so much. I've done races before where, I've been tracking my time and it's obvious I'm not going to get the 75 miles. And you kind of think, oh, well, I may as well pull back a bit. I'll spend a bit more time in the pit. But if you're sort of, ahead of the game a bit, you do, it really motivates you to keep pushing forward. So, and the same with the obstacles, I didn't fail an obstacle for the first 10 hours or so, which was, made you feel great. And then when you started to fail them, because by that stage, I'd had quite a few bans, on me. I was then sort of, I say strategically, I mean, working out, so what's the longer penalties? So that's what I'll use my band on and, try and work it out that way. So yeah, it was really, really good, interesting race, I thought. So really pleased with it.
Did you have time? I know you went out there with the 75. That was your goal. That's what you went out with.
Yeah.
Did you have times per lap or markers throughout the race that you wanted to achieve?
Yes. I mean, I wanted to get. I thought if I could get 45 miles in the first 12 hours, then I was confident of the 75 because that meant after then I could do 2-hour laps. If I did 2-hour laps after then, and then I think I got the 45 miles. I think I did it in 11 hours. So again, I was like, okay, I've got an extra hour in the bag. And then I was like, oh, actually, you've got an hour and a half after the 24 as well. So I've got 2.5 hours in the bag. So, again, all those things was just keeping you positive. And when my legs were getting tighter and everything was sort of getting a lot more sore, I just kept pushing forward, anticipating the point at what I couldn't, when I couldn't run anymore. So I thought if I could get as many miles under me until that point, then great. And it seemed to really work out. So my last lap, though, was really, Sean Corvell always says that you don't finish the race at the finish line, you finish out on the course. And my last lap, I felt like that, I finished on the course because, I was, really couldn't move any faster than a walk. And at one point, because the sun had come up, I almost thought I was going to pass out. But the only thing I thought was if I pass out, do I still get to stay on the course when I come through? Or I was trying to work out what the scenario would be on that. But I think I had like 2.5 hours left to do another lap. But physically, there was no way I was, walking or even moving through that last lap. So yeah, I was really pleased with that.
Yeah, your 15th lap was by far your slowest, 2 hours 21. I was going to assume that you was power walking. Well, maybe not power walking, just maybe walking at that point.
Yeah, anything really. It was just, it was agony, absolute agony, and blisters on my feet, cuts, and the heat. I think that was the big thing. I've never run in heat like that before. Just because if it's hot like that, I just wouldn't go for a training run. So to actually start the race like that, and also with it being the sprint lap, so you're moving as a bit quicker than normal anyway. And then on top of that, with it being so dry in the sand, every obstacle you're sort of, if you're rolling over, climbing over, I just felt I was getting grazed all over my body. All I had on was my bib. I didn't have a shirt on because it was so hot. So you had obstacles like tight squeeze, which was pyramid scheme with the net on there. Yeah. That was agony. You crawling under there, you've got this heavy Hessium net on top of you, and it's just scratching your back all over. Which Irish table or Dublin walls, or the walls with a ledge on it. Again, that one you climb over there, and I was finding when I was rolling over on the top, just grazing your chest and everything with the sand. But it was like that throughout the whole race, really. And then you had the sun coming up in the morning to give you sunburn. It's a bit of everything.
Did you find, you mentioned earlier on that you were running to your heart rate. Did you find the heat was pushing your heart rate up a little bit?
Yeah, I think it was, to be honest. I think definitely the first 3 or 4 hours, I was noticing it, going up and down, but I was then trying to sort of manage that, manage it a bit more. So try and, especially like downhills, to try and pick up the pace on the downhills. And then, if I was running, for too long a period than just to hold back a bit. But yeah, it's the first time I've really sort of tracked my heart rate through racing, which I know is probably, you should really be tracking it more. But I felt it really helped a lot. So
what was you trying to hit? What was your goal?
What with the heart rate?
Heart rate, yeah.
What was it? It was kind of like within the 145, 150 is where I sort of felt comfortable. So when it got to like 160 plus, I then sort of just held back a bit. And then obviously I think after about 10 hours or so, I didn't really have to worry because it had lowered down quite a bit. But it was I think really the heat was really interesting on the course because, as I say, running throughout the night the only gear I put on was my windbreaker. Besides that, I had the same shorts and shoes from start to finish. So and I think that also helped a lot because other races, when you're coming in to put your wetsuit on, that eats up a lot of your time. So and sometimes not just your wetsuit, you go and you put something else on. So you could be changing 3 or 4 times, and each one of those, that's 4 or 5 minutes in the pit. Again, it can really eat into the time. So yeah, I think that helped a lot.
Without a doubt. I mean, Grant mentioned earlier on, I asked him the same question I'm going back to ask you.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of people come to me and said it's one of the easier WTMs that they've ever been to, purely because the cold wasn't there. It was warm. Although Grant mentioned, and you've just mentioned, that heat was actually that's a negative factor throughout the day.
Yeah. I mean, it's different. I mean, I was actually sat with Grant at the awards, and we were just chatting about everything, and he was saying, with what he runs hills, because I was saying that there wasn't many hills there, so kind of seemed like a bonus. But he was saying with the energy that he exerted throughout, because there was a sand area, which was where Lumberjack was and Devil's Beard. I mean, that going through that sand was really hard going. And Grant was saying like he exerted more energy running through that sand than he would do up hills. And I think it made sense because it was really hard going through that. So I think you could say it was easier because of the weather conditions being dry, but the heat really took it out of you. I mean, I was really conscious pretty much every lap of grabbing a bottle of water, and I was drinking like a bottle of water every lap, plus drinking at every water station that was there. And my salts was just taken in so because it was so hot. And then on top of that, I found like my hands, because they were dry most of the time. Like I say, 10 hours in was fine, but after that, things like just the tip, my hands were just raw because of how dry everything was, and also say with the sand grazing over it. So I had it. Plus, it's there were things that I probably you could probably say were easier, but then there were things that were harder. So sort of ups and downs, I guess.
I get that. I mean, massive well done, like I said, on 75. I do think you the second Brit as well? Or you were second behind Grant, weren't you?
Yeah.
Oh, so
I think so. No, third. I think.
No. We had Gary Andrews on 80 and also Michael Walker on 80. So you came fourth Brit.
Right.
Fourth Brit in total. So, I mean, that's phenomenal. That's a great achievement. Looking forward to 2025, we've got WTM coming over to the UK.
Yeah.
Are you going to completely different scenario? I know we're in the middle of summer, but it's not really a summer over here compared to over in the States. It's potentially going to get cold still in the evening. I mean, will we wear wetsuits? Not. I don't know. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, but people were saying that a lot over there, but. I mean, I remember, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, we had that heat wave that was like 40 degrees at that time of year. And we often get heat waves, 30, 35 degrees, which, if anything, was as hot, if not hotter, than Florida. And I think that's the thing. That time of year, you just don't know. So, yes, I think it could be a hot night with no wetsuits needed. But likewise, when I did Toughest this year, I mean, that got really cold. And that was the end of July. I mean, it was freezing at night. So, I suppose it's come prepared as you should do for every Worlds, So, I mean, I'm just praying it's going to be hot because it just makes a big difference.
And we've got a couple of hills down at Beaver Castle. We've got a couple of hills that are going to play a part, I believe.
A couple of what? Sorry.
A couple of the hills are going to play a part, because we've got that bank along the right hand side. If we use that again, that's going to take a big part of the race.
Yeah, the first year they did toughest there, they used that bank. I mean, it was brutal. Like it was because I mean it's a really steep thing, and I don't remember them using it. I could be wrong. For a couple of years after that. So yeah, I mean it's a course where if they want to make it really hard, they can do. And likewise, if they want to make it fun, they can as well. So it just it all depends really on the terrain. I think it's a good course because you've got everything there. You've got hills, you've got flat area, you've got a bit of water to go through and things, and you've got that castle in the background, which is always a nice sort of backdrop. So I think
beautiful when the sun comes up into
Yeah.
that's going to be one of the highlights. I think at ETM 2 years ago, I was at I think it was Augustus Gloop, which was right on the top of the hill. And
yeah,
I came to that as the sun came up, and
Yeah.
looking at Augustus Gloop with the castle in the background as
it's
the sun rose was like,
yeah.
keep it going.
Yeah, I remember the first year as well. They did toughest there. As the sun rose, we didn't realize, but we was just surrounded by cows. So there's loads of cows and I think a few sheep around as well, which is always fun.
That's always going to be fun.
Yeah,
I'm going to be aiming for 75 this next year. This is my aim. I've said it all along. That's my aim because at my age, if I hit 75 at my age group, I'm going to podium. So
Yeah.
that's what my aim is. I want to podium when I go next year. What tips have you got for me? So I haven't done a WTM. I've done ETM. I've done infinities, things like that. I've run endurance. Everyone knows
Yeah.
that. But what tip could you give me?
I think judging on how my race went and speaking with other people, it's having a really good organized pit. So because the less time you spend in the pit, the better. And then the other tip is just to keep moving. As much as it's nice to sort. I mean, I had a couple of people when I was out running. When you slow down, you start talking to people, and I just had to politely say, look, I've got to get going. Because it's very easy to sit and to slow down and talk to people. So yeah, I mean, I was always polite, said hello to everyone, but I just made a point of like, sorry, I've got to crack on. Because and as I say, with the pit, if you spend like 4-5 minutes in the pit, over the course of the race, that you could easily use an hour and a half in there. So really sort of have your pit organized with your nutrition and things, and keep moving. I think that's the main thing, and stay positive, really, because I think above anything else, if you can just keep positive, you're going to do it. You're going to do it. It'll just really push you forward. I think that's the thing for me is as much as I say like my legs and everything was just hurting throughout the race because I could see that I could get it. I was just like, yes, you can heal after the race, no matter all your cuts and things. So, but be sensible, obviously. Don't.
So obviously next year, 75 goal again, or we're going to set a bit longer.
Well, I mean, originally, because as I say, because I was ill going into that race. I mean, I would have been happy with 50. And my goal was to do 75 next year. But now having done the 75, so again, knowing that you can do it, I think as a minimum, I'd like to get 80. But I mean, usually after Worlds, I'll have like a month or two off and then start training again. So you've got a good 9 months or so. But with it being in June, I'm just going to keep up the training straight away. So, I like to feel like my training's quite at top at the moment. So if I can just keep doing that, I think just push as far as you can go, really. It was really interesting, as I say, we sat with Grant at the awards, just talking with him about, how he trains and things. And that's one thing I quite like at the awards thing is just chatting to all the guys that have got 75, 80 or 100 miles and just seeing how they train and trying to get some tips off them where you can. I mean, like Grant was saying, he runs, every day, but he didn't seem to say that he was running like stupidly long distance. He was doing a lot of like hills training and then, lots of pull-ups and, other little bits and pieces like that. So, I think I'm just going to try and get a lot more, hill training, like HIIT training, but up hills, and then a lot more pull-ups and grip strength things into my training. See how that goes. So
Definitely.
Yeah.
I've recently read a book. I'm going to tell you a name. Just bear with me a second.
Yeah.
I'm glad I didn't try and guess the name. So I've got a book called Let Your Mind Run by Dina Castor. So she was an Olympian,
Right.
American Olympian, and she talks about her training plan quite heavily in that. And she didn't do silly mileage. She would do maybe a 6 or 7 miler in the morning, followed by a 10 miler in an evening, which is not it probably is me thinking 17 miles a day, but
Yeah.
because she was doing it twice a day, which
Yeah.
is quite hard for people who hold jobs down.
Yeah.
He was saying that she built a endurance up by doing
Yeah.
that type of running as opposed to going out and running a
Mm.
20 plus mile. I think she said her first marathon that she did, which I believe is Boston, she had never run a marathon distance before.
Mm.
So, which is crazy when you think about it.
Well, I can't remember who it was at Worlds a few years ago I spoke to, and they got 80 miles, and I asked them what their training was, and they said, I run 10 miles every day. I said, what, have you never done more than that? No. And the running, where I live, the running club there, I was telling that story to someone there, and they were telling me that there was a guy at the running club who, again, he would run 10 miles every single day without fail, and then just decided to enter a 100-mile ultra and completed it. So, you know, that I think, again, like Grant was saying, I think that's what seems to be one of the things is running, you know, 6 to 10 miles every single day. And I think there's something in that. So I'm going to try and, you know, factor that in. And I think as well with working, because I you know, when I do like really long runs, like training, you know, 20, 25 miles, you know, factoring that in your weekend, it's, you know, it takes, you know, by the time you get ready and get changed afterwards, it's most of your day gone. So I think trying to do these like shorter runs, I say shorter, you know, still 6 to 10 miles is fair. I think it's a lot more doable, especially if you're, you know, you've got a job, you know, holding that down and stuff. So that's going to be the plan, is to try and get that in. And then also, you know, for the weekend, I go for like a, say, 10 mile run in the morning. You can then pop into the gym or you know, go rock climbing in the afternoon and get those in. So yeah, I'm going to sort of just try and play around with a few different things over the course of the year.
Completely agree.
I think the one thing as well, which I felt was a big help with this year, was I've been really, really strict with my nutrition for, I don't know, probably since about May or June. Nothing like outrageous, but just not eating any crap. So no sugars or no like processed foods or anything like that. Lots of, you know, proteins and vegetables. And my physio was saying, and as a lot of people say, you know, with training, you know, a lot of it is down to your diet. So yeah,
I couldn't agree more with that. I mean, you have some great points there. I'm all for nutrition. Matt Roberts over at Primal Fitness, I love his nutritional plans. Try and stick to him as best I can. Don't so much do his fasting side of things, but I do try and stick to his, you know, what he says his basics are is good wholesome food that is either reared or grown as opposed to anything that's processed.
Yeah, well, I mean, I try and eat like some sort of protein every day, be it, you know, fish, steaks, you know, pork, whatever, and vegetables and greens, you know, and nothing processed. So, and no alcohol, no sugars. Just, I mean, I suppose it's like, sounds like the obvious. It's just eating, you know, just don't eat crap. You know?
Yeah. And on that note, Charlie, I'll say thank you very much for joining us. And I'm going to see you on the start line at next year's WTM.
Brilliant. Cool.
Let's have a bit of fun till I downfall. My love, if you feel